Miniature Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below for Forest Shuffle or any other game. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going for a walk in the forest. We're going to be seeing beautiful trees. We're going to be seeing birds and butterflies and animals and predators and mushrooms and all sorts of different things in this forest, all trying to get the most points. Today we take a look at Forest Shuffle. This is a tableau builder that came out at the end of last year, made my top 5 card games of the year. Let me show you how it works. I'll see you on the other side. Forest Shuffle is a beautiful tableau builder where you're going to be planting trees in front of yourself, but you're also going to be bringing out other multi-use cards, ones that go sideways like this with animals, and ones that go up and down will have more animals and different types of things that you'll find out in the forest. Now you start the game with 6 cards. They'll be in your hand. They won't be on the table, but I'm showing you there what this looks like. Now you can do different things on your turn. One is you can play a card. Now when you play a card, you have a cost. This is I have to spend 2 cards from my hand. It says 1. Now it's advantageous a lot of times to get trees out first, but this one only costs 1, so maybe I want to do this one. Now this one has some scoring at the end. It says this is a horse chestnut tree. If this thing's out there, the more horse chestnut trees I get, the more points I get. If I get all 7 of them or 7 of them, I'll get 49 points. But one of them just gets me 1 point. So do I go down the road of putting a bunch of horse chestnut trees down? It only cost me 1 card, which might seem good, but this one, I want to play this one. This one says it's going to cost me 2 cards because I'm going to get 10 points if all tree species are in my forest. Well, why else do I want to play this oak? Well, because I know I have this squirrel here that says if it goes in that tree, it's going to get 5 points if it's on an oak tree. Okay. There's also some other things like with these little binoculars. If you discard 2 cards to pay for this, that's this type. It looks like this. Then you actually get to do a special ability. In this case, it's like take another turn. So you can kind of link certain cards together. But now I want to play this one. Okay, so which of the 2 cards do I want to get rid of? This is a tough choice in the game, but to show you there's all different types of cards in here. Like this one says a tree frog. I want to hold this one because it says it's 5 points per gnat. But this one, I have a gnat, so these 2 cards go together. So maybe I want to play this one and I'll just get rid of like these 2 trees for now. So there you go, that's my turn. I spent the 2 cards and I played the tree. Now when spending cards, they actually go into this board in the middle of the table, and this is important because on your turn, instead of playing a card, you can draw cards. You can either draw cards from the top of the deck, or you can draw them from the clearing. So think of this as everything you give up to pay for something you're offering to your opponents, because they might take these. But much like in Lost Cities, you might be putting them there hoping to get them back because it's on your turn. Instead of playing a card, you can draw 2 cards. Maybe you draw 1 off the top, and maybe you draw this one back. Now if this ever gets 10 cards, you actually remove all of these, so they're not going to be there forever. Either someone's going to take them, or it's going to get full enough where they're all gone. That creates tension in the game. Now also when you play a tree, you actually draw a card from the top of the deck and put it in the clearing, sort of seeding that out a little bit. Now over the course of the game, you're going to have multiple trees, and if you ever get stuck and you really want to build a tree, plant a tree, and you can't, you can always use the back of any one of these cards. It kind of counts as a tree, just not like a tree type for scoring. So let's say it's our turn, and again, there's different ways that you can play cards. For example, I could play this one, and it goes on top. This one doesn't cost me anything, but it's a butterfly, and for any amount of different butterflies, I'll get a certain amount of points. Or maybe I want to play this one as the tree frog. And again, it didn't cost me any cards, but it's going to give me 5 points per gnat. Now on the next turn, again, I could spend 3 and place this wolf, or 0 and place the gnat. Now the wolf's going to get you a card for every one of these types of animals that you've played. At the end of the game, it's going to get you 5 points for every one of those because those are the types of animals that it likes to hunt. So let's play this one. Didn't cost me any cards. It's a gnat, which is going to get this card's going to score at 5 points at the end of the game because of this. And it's talking about, hey, a different number of any number of bats in your area, and a point per bat. So you can see all different types of cards linked together. Now each tree can only have 1 card below, 1 card above, 1 card on the right, 1 card on the left. That's a full tree. You don't have to fill them up, but that's the most you can place there. That's the reason why you're going to be placing more trees over the course of the game. That's pretty much it. I'll show you one more card like this one. If I play this one on the top underneath this tree, again, it would cost me 1 card. I'd immediately get to take another turn, and it's going to get me 3 points at the end of the game. Or maybe I play the mushroom. Mushrooms are interesting because they have an ongoing ability where whenever I play one of these types of cards, these are pod animals, I can draw a card from the top of the deck. So you can see there's lots of ideas here, lots of choices, lots of trees, lots of ways to score points. And that's pretty much how you play the game. Now, as you're drawing cards from the deck, the deck's going to diminish, and in the bottom third of the deck, there'll be a winter card at the top of it, and somewhere shuffled in that bottom third of the deck is going to be 2 other winter cards. Once the third card comes, that's going to trigger the end of the game, so you have a feeling of when it's coming, but you don't know exactly when it's going to happen. Whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. And lastly, I'll leave you with some other cards that I haven't shown you yet. Feel free to pause and check them out. All right, now I mentioned at the beginning that this made my top 5 card games of the year for 2023, and I gotta admit, I had only played it a few times before then because I did not own a copy at that point, but I recently have gotten a copy and been able to play it some more, and now here's the full review. But if I had been able to play it this much before I made those videos, it would have been higher on that top 5 card games of the year list because it's amazing. So I love the beautiful art, first and foremost. This is a nice Zen-like, thinky yet breezy tableau builder that just looks beautiful on the table. I love this has quick, streamlined turns. I mean, you're either drawing cards from the display or from the top of the deck, or you're spending cards to play a card. I love that because when you're spending cards, it's a tough choice. As you saw in my overview, I already had a tough choice as to which cards to play. You're always going to be probably giving up something you don't want to, temporarily maybe, to play something. And when you spend those cards, you know, you put them on that clearing board, and it's kind of like temporary storage, kind of like Lost Cities. Same tension as to what you discard, because you're like, oh, I don't want to give this up because they're working on this. They'll clearly take this. Or, you know, you're also worried that you're hoping they get it back. But you're also worried because if you play a card there, it's likely somebody else might take it before it's your turn. Or it's possible that, depending on the size of the clearing, you realize that it's probably not going to be there by the time it gets back because the clearing will get to 10, it will get cleared, and all the cards will be gone. But it is interesting that you can use that for temporary storage in certain strategic points. So you might be wanting to play a card that you don't want to, but depending on the size of the clearing, might just change your decision as what you do that turn. You might wait a turn and draw some cards, let somebody else clear their clearing, then play that, put that card out there. Now it has a better chance at least of possibly being there for you later. Lots of strategy, even though it's really easy. I love that when you're drawing from the clearing, you can either draw from the clearing or off the top. It gives you that flexibility because you're not always going to want when people play there. You can just take some random ones off the top as well. There's many ways to score. You know, you're building on top of the trees and to the sides of the trees and on the bottom of the trees, and it's all sort of thematic things as I showed you in the overview. I like that. It just gets you kind of in the theme of the game. I like that there's tension as winter comes. You know, the first winter comes and you're like, oh, it's the beginning of the end of the third of the game. And any time now, if 2 more winter card comes, it's over, right? And that kind of reminded me of like Ethnos, a really popular card game where the last 3 were 3 dragons, and as soon as the 3rd dragon comes, so it is pressure luck. Sometimes it might be the last card of the deck, but likely it's not going to be. But you can say, oh, first, okay, better start landing the plane here. Ooh, second one comes out. It could end any second now. I really got to get things down. Good tension there towards the end. I like the flexibility of using any cards as a sapling tree. You get stuck, you don't have any trees, you can just flip one of your cards over, play it down, and use it as a tree, at least to play other cards on it. This game reminded me a lot of a game called Meadow, which was also a beautiful nature-themed sort of tableau builder. Now that was sort of like a worker placement game as well, where you're putting things out in a grid and grabbing certain cards in that grid, but playing cards on top of other cards that had other requirements and things like that. This reminded me of that, but I actually like this one a lot better. Now that other game had a lot more stuff going on. This took, in my opinion, like the best parts of Meadow and put it into a shorter, more tight package that I like better actually, quite honestly. So it's like Meadow with all the fat trimmed off. On the negative side of things, it's a little harder to plan turns ahead with the higher player counts. Because again, you might be wanting to put something down there for temporary storage as you pay, but it's less likely you're going to get that back later with higher player count. More people could take it, or more chances of that clearing getting to 10 and having it go away. So the clearing gets cleared a little too often with a higher player count game. So it's a lot more tactical, a lot more what am I gonna do right now, where like in a 2 or 3 player game, you could play something down and really plan a couple turns ahead. In this game, you don't play with all the cards unless you're playing the max player count, but you're gonna be removing cards for player count. And I get why you do it, because that's going to scale the playing time, because you don't want this game to overstay its welcome. It does not. It feels right about the right length. But the downside of that, of course, is it kind of throws out the count card. So each card, there's a little number next to them that says how many of these there are in the game. So if there's like 4 of these animals and you're trying to collect them, you know, having some randomly removed, you don't really know. There's 4 possibly in the game, but you never know. So it makes it a little harder to make some strategic decisions. But again, I don't know how another way around it, because you got to remove the cards. Otherwise, a 2-player game with all the cards would last way too long. You'd get way too much done. It'd be too easy. It wouldn't be tense enough. So that's a little negative there. I wish the cards were bigger. Now, granted, by the time you're done, your table's going to be full anyways, especially if you're close to the higher player counts. So they probably did that for table space. But man, the art on this card's really nice. I would really love to see these in either normal size cards or even like a deluxe version that's using like Dixit size cards. Of course, again, you probably would only be able to play a 4-player game max, maybe 2 with the bigger, huge cards. But man, it'd be cool to see like a bigger deluxe version of this. If you could fit it on the table, it would be awesome, because it would be so cool. It'd be a little easier to read. Some of the cards are smaller, so again, seeing some of those numbers as to how many cards there are or something, it's kind of hard to see because the cards are very small. Now, the card number count. I just talked about how some of the cards, it shows you how many there are for each of the things, but it doesn't have the numbers for linking together points. For example, the Wild Boar's 10 points if at least 1 squeaker. Well, it doesn't tell you how many squeakers are on the deck. They should have put a little number there telling you how many. So again, these are all minor nitpicks. The game is fantastic. It's one of the best card games I played all year last year. It is flying up the Board Game Geek ranks. I think at this point it's in the 400s, which anything lower than 1,000 is amazing. This game's already halfway past that. They're in the 400s. It's flying up the BGG ranks, and I can see why. The game is fantastic. If you're looking for a thinky yet breezy tableau builder that looks beautiful, that you can play in an hour or less, you gotta check out Forest Shuffle. And for all those reasons, I'm keeping it in my gaming library. So for that reason, let's induct it properly with a saxophone serenade. Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, and if you missed their 4.0 Kickstarter, you can still late pledge and take advantage of over 40 unlocked stretch goals and early fulfillment. This campaign featured a new Young Sherlock table, perfect for children's gaming, and movable coffee table, 10 new thematic mats by top artists like Vincent Dutray, a new designer art series Mycroft topper with thematic art from Brent Woodside, and some of the best package deals they've had, including game mat bundles. Go to GameToppersLLC.com or click the link below to late pledge now.